Let's talk some college hoops, one of the biggest stages in all of sports. MSG hosting the CBS Sports Classic tomorrow. Plenty of big-time programs in action, so you know what that means. Plenty of storylines to go along with it. We have UCLA and Mick Cronin. They've rattled off 9 straight wins. And for the most part, when they win by a whole lot of points. And they're taking on a UNC team that is desperate for a dub. Tar Heels at 6-5. And then, of course, we have the Big Ten taking on the ACC, going from that to the Big Ten and the SEC with Ohio State and Kentucky. We're going to get to all of it, but we have our CBS Sports college basketball analyst, Hunter Dickinson, joining us here to preview these matchups. Hunter, always great to see you, and we're starting off with number 18 UCLA and UNC. We're going to start with the UNC of it all because they've had a very tough schedule, as you know, and a lot of their losses have come to those top-tier programs like Kansas. So seeing this team up close and personal, do you think they have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with this hot UCLA team that's rattled off 9 straight wins?
Yes, I do. I think the thing that UNC has going for them is UCLA doesn't really have a dominant big. I think the thing that UNC is struggling with the most is, they're obviously a little undersized. They weren't able to get a big man in the transfer portal, and I think that's kind of what they're struggling with the most now. They have, 4 dynamic guards with R.J. Davis, Elliot Cadeau, Seth Trimble, and Ian Jackson, and I think that's what they're going to have to try to lean on. I think, those 4 guards are kind of really determine how their season goes, and I think R.J. Davis has been stepping it up, and I think he's going to have to really lead his team out there versus UCLA, who is playing really well, and I think it's going to really come down to that guard play of whether those guards can control the game or not.
Right, and for R.J. Davis, only shooting 22% from 3 over the last 4 games, so to your point, needing him to step up. Let's talk about UCLA, because again, 9 straight wins, UNC more desperate for a win after coming off that loss to Florida, but regardless of the record, UNC is still a big-time opponent. It's still a really big stage. How do you think UCLA is going to handle that?
I think they'll do really well. Obviously, traveling cross country can be really hard, but playing in, MSG is, every player's dream. They're led by Tyler Bilodeau, and he's really kind of, that offensive firepower. He's leading them in points and rebounds this year. But they also have good guard play in Sky Clark and Eric Daly Jr. I think those 3 will probably be the catalyst for them. I think Eric Daly Jr. coming from Oklahoma State, Big 12. He's having a really good year for them, and I think, having Mick Cronin there will definitely present a really good challenge for UNC.
All right, so that's half of it, and then we got to talk about Ohio State and Kentucky. It's the Big Ten again, but this time against the SEC, which has been phenomenal in basketball as a whole so far this season. And we have 2 first-year head coaches that are going in 2 different directions, right? Because we have Diebler and Ohio State sitting at 7-4. They just lost to Auburn by almost 40. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. And then meanwhile, Mark Pope having quite the year 1, a top 5 Kentucky team, 10-1, and returning like 0 scholarship players. Is this seem to be an easy win for UK? Are they just going to roll, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than it seems on paper?
I do think it's going to be kind of hard for Ohio State. I think it's pretty much a consensus. If everybody were to pick a, coach of the year so far, I think Mark Pope would definitely be the coach of the year so far. Just the way, like you said, he's taken a roster that, he had no team kind of coming in from BYU, and he's been able to, really strike in the transfer portal and get a lot of veteran guys who just know how to play basketball. And I think his system is really good for high IQ players, and I think he's able to get that out there. So I think Ohio State will have a lot of trouble guarding their sets, and like you said, Ohio State's been struggling as of late, so it might be a tough game for them.
Yeah, it feels like Kentucky, new coach, no problem. They haven't skipped a beat. So, Hunter, of course, when I think of football, I know you're a big football fan. I'm thinking Kansas City Chiefs. They're playing tomorrow against the Texans. Want to talk to you about getting out there, and you said, hold up, I'm actually a Bills fan, so I got to know, what is it like being a Bills fan in this day and age in the NFL, living, amongst a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans, I can imagine?
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Like, being a Bills fan is already tough because, of our history and how we haven't won a Super Bowl. And then coming here to Kansas City, seeing Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid win all these championships, it's been tough. But we have won. Obviously we won this year in the regular season, and so I was able to get a little bit. But I was actually trying to go to the game tomorrow, but because of practice and everything like that, unable to go. But I think it's the Bills' year this year. We've been playing really good. We just came off a big win versus the Lions. So I think, we have a lot of momentum coming. I think it might be our year this year.
I was just going to ask, with the way Josh Allen is playing, do you think they finally do it? So fingers crossed for Bills Mafia, and best of luck being around all these Chiefs fans as we approach the postseason. Hunter, we certainly appreciate it. And just a reminder, you can catch Hunter with us here on CBS Sports HQ, previewing all the college basketball matchups. So joining us here today to talk about the CBS Sports Classic. It all kicks off with North Carolina and UCLA, and then also a top 5 team in Kentucky taking on Ohio State. That is Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern on CBS, and of course streaming on Paramount Plus as well.